Morning, y'all. Call it. Just call it. When it comes to buying a new driver, what really are you looking for? Are you looking for an increase in distance, an increase in accuracy, maybe both? Or are you looking for none of those things? Normally, the double win, longer, straighter, is obviously going to sell a new driver if you're looking for a new driver. But for some people, it doesn't even take that. Let's take a little deep dive down into some numbers today. Think about fittings. Think about the data that we work with so much now in these videos, and obviously when you go to fits, lots of you will be looking at data. Let's just peel back the onion a little bit and see what it actually means for many golfers, or not. But in that comment section, when you go for your driver fitting, what are you looking for? Tell me. And if you haven't called it, just call it. Right, I got three drivers, secret drivers here. I've got three. I'm going to hit 10 of each, and then we're going to have a look at the numbers, see how we interpret the data, those kind of ideas. I'm going to try and give them a good old whack. Driver number one. So we're going to hit 30 drives, no deletes, anything like that, just 30 whacks. Let's look at what comes out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit 3 drives with each club, and then I'm going to switch. 3, switch, 3, switch, 3, switch. And I'm going to talk about some best practices for custom fitting when you go to kind of look out for to see if it's a fair fight or if it's a purely just a selling tool or not, and maybe even the fitters stroke coach's understanding of how to get the best and fairest results for you as a customer. So they'll come at the end of the video. Right, as I carry on collecting the data, let's head to my putting green at home and explore this idea a bit more, this time with make rates against, say, the PGA Tour. I've measured out an 8-foot putt, and when I look at the PGA Tour statistics, an 8-foot putt is close to 50-50 on its make rate. I think it's around, for one of the seasons, 49 point something. So I'm going to hit a series of 10 8-foot putts, look at my make rate, see what we can pull from the data that might make us relate what we're doing here a little bit to what's going on with the drivers. Call it. Just call it. Maybe in the comments down below, out of each group of 10, what will my average be? Right, last drive. Let's go and look at these numbers and see which one you would buy from the data collected. Oh, it's a line ball. Let's take a look at the numbers of the 3 drivers, A, B and C. And I want you, as we go along, once you've reached your conclusion, in the comments down below, which driver would you recommend for me? So if we look at club head speed to start, all very similar, the A and B almost exactly the same, just around 112, just 112.5. But club C, I swung it a fraction quicker, got it to nearly 113. Now if we look at the ball speeds, tightest dispersion is club A. Getting up near 162 average, and then 160 average club B, and club C just above the 160. So club A is now just sneaking ahead, and certainly very tight dispersion on club A for ball speeds. That then reflects through onto the carry distance. If you look at club A, it's got the longest shot. Club B and club C both have outliers down at the bottom of miss hits, tightest dispersion again. Kind of 2 of them at 280, one just below 280 carry. So I think we've got club C is 279 exact, I think, average, and club A is 284. So it's 5 yards further, and you can see it's much tighter dispersed, which you saw from the ball speeds. Really, that's reflecting through onto the carry distance. Again, spin numbers all very close. Club A, as you'd expect, is tighter, so all spinning between 2,000 and 2,500, apart from 3-ish, 4-ish outliers, maybe 5-ish out of the whole data set, so pretty tight tolerances on all of them. And then if we look at the strokes gained, it's between A and B, isn't it? With C dropping back with much bigger deviations from top to bottom. 2 outliers on A and C, but C are fractionally sneaking it there, really. So from those numbers, which one should I use? Get in. Remember, call it. So let's take a look at that putting data. Let's pretend, just for argument's sake, that those 5 putts, so groups of 10, were 5 different putters. From the data there, which putter are you not buying? Down in that comment section, which one are you not buying? I mean, you're not buying A, are you? You're not buying putter A. You're going to look again at putter B and C quite closely, which has the highest make rate. Now what happens is, if you look at all 50 putts, is it regresses pretty close to where the tour average is. Now I'm slightly above tour average because I'm hitting the same putt over and over again. On a green, I know. I would expect that. They, on a putting green, on a putt that they learn the line of, would also raise their playing stats or strokes or their averages that I'm working it against here. So it all falls into place. It's literally regressing to a mean, isn't it? Now let's think back to our drivers. So let's take a few data sets here. Let's pretend I've got an average here of 280 and I've got a standard deviation of 6 yards either side, so 286, and then coming down to 274. So standard deviation 6 plus or minus. Now I try one club and I hit a group of shots, and they all come down on this lower side of my average, close to the lower side of my standard deviation, and that one is 277 average. Then I try club 2 and I hit a group of shots, and now all of a sudden I start getting to the top side of my standard deviation, and now all of a sudden we're 283. So let's say that's now a 6 yard longer club. But is it? Is that club actually 6 yards further, or am I just holding 7 out of 10 putts on that go compared to the 4 on the first go? What they're actually doing is all falling within my standard deviation. Now, for me to actually see an increase, I would look at it more possibly this way. So we need to actually move that data set on. So this is the 280, this is the 286, let's say this is 287, this is 292, and now this is 299. That's an increase in the data set where we don't have an overlap of these two lines. We don't just simply hit 12, 15 shots that fill this side of your heads or tails, and then another data set that fills this side of heads or tails, and then we're saying one's better than the other. We actually, as a rule of thumb, want to think more about trying to move that club past your deviations. And I think this is where I see so many people getting the wrong idea. Just to let you know, from my original driver test, and we're going to look at the accuracy data as well now, because I know people like to then, they defer the idea if it's not extra distance that you're after, that it's accuracy. So if we look at the accuracy data on the 3 drivers, remember this is the same driver, so some of you would have chosen one for me to game, but they're actually the same driver. I mean, you would argue that driver A is the most accurate, close to that middle line, with driver B being the least accurate. All this is the first 10, the second 10, and the third 10 shots actually with one driver, not 3, it's one driver. And what happens, which we see in many tests, even when I change drivers, is you can see how the lines are overlapping. For let's say we wanted the blue club C to be very different in direction, dispersion to club A, we would need the whole black line with the 2 lines at either side going further right of club A for it to show really as a difference. Otherwise, what we're seeing, like we see in Club B, is just quite a lot of noise. So what does this mean for you, someone trying to buy clubs and trying to improve your game? And does this mean that all reviews are rubbish and all club fits are rubbish? It absolutely doesn't, but there are some ideas that you just need to be clearer on to make sure you are not getting sold and you are buying what you expect to buy. To give you an idea on that, let's pretend, back to the whiteboard idea, that you're going to go, if 100 people test at hit all averaging 280, if you test enough, you're going to get 50% who go above the 280 average, and then you're going to get 50% who go below the 280 average. Similar to this coin toss that I'm calling each time. I mean, are you calling that coin toss? Let's do another one. Look, call it. Oh, I've dropped it. Just call it. So by definition, for the people who want to make gains on direction, because it's going to be the same with some improving direction and same, like it's the same kind of bell curve idea. It'll be with direction, dispersion as it is with distance. 50% are going to improve on average if you do enough fits. 50% aren't. But out of that 50%, looking on comments and doing fittings over years, you could argue nearly 10% of them just want a new club because they don't want to use their brother's old club or their dad's old club or a club that they've used for 20 years and they're bored of it. They do actually want a new club. So you're looking at a success rate in a fitting of around 60%. That's before we talk about deleting shots and moving the data around, which is like, you know, maybe post comments down below if you feel like that's something that's happened for you when you've gone for club fits. Because if you think about how easy it is to show differences in the same club hit 3 times in groups of 10, like if you start taking out some of the outliners or the outliers on the distance or dispersion, you can really start to show some differences. So some good rules of thumb for you to get the best fits. If you're going to see how different the clubs are, then it's going to be stacked against you. The odds are going to be stacked against you. What I do when I test, and someone said this to me recently, and I think, yeah, that's kind of what I've always done, is I'm showing you how similar the clubs are, not different. I'm saying to you, look how similar these clubs are. If anything was ever different, I would test and retest and test to see if they actually are, see if that really comes through. Trying to beat your standard deviation will give you a good idea if something is actually better or not. Then in turn, repeating that test to see if it's better or not. Does it keep repeating? Because again, looking at my tests with the putts, great one, 5 groups of 10. Like that isn't always going to be B and C being the 7 out of 10, isn't it? It's going to constantly change. The thing that will happen is I will regress to my mean. Now, the other thing that would really assist you to understand if something is better or not is if you went there with data. If people are talking about trying to improve dispersion, for instance, when you hit club to club, you're only going to show my putter test within reason, unless something is really butchered. Unless you go in there with some dispersion data taken over a season of you playing, I hit my driver predominantly 70% to the right and only 5% to the left, rest in the middle. I want to fix that. If you then go and hit 30 drives, so over 12 drives to try and get a data set that represents something, and you show a pattern of a different miss, there's gains. Like there are gains to be had. Comparing like for like, you're going to see like for like. Then absolutely people come to fits, stroke lessons with ridiculous lofts on their club, built on ideas from when they got fit 3 years ago, and they're just not delivering like that anymore. So massive gains can be had in there. Speeds, I can gain a bit more speed from a lighter shaft to a heavier shaft if it's counterbalanced on a certain head. Not always, but sometimes. If I can repeat that, and if it actually moves me past my standard deviation, probably not, but that's a different conversation, but there might be gains there. Obviously head types. There are head types that can spin the ball 300 revs less, which might then equate to move you past your standard deviation if you test it enough, and those kind of ideas. Like, absolutely, I am not saying the ideas are pointless, but what I am saying is going in there with a 40% loss, or you got a 60% chance of losing your money. Obviously it's up to you what you do with your money. Losing's a joke term I'm using there. Is maybe not going to give you the best idea of what is actually better for you, unless you are someone who just wants that new driver and treat yourself, do whatever you want. And then the key point, which I've been saying for years and I still think it gets looked over, you should be using these fitting sessions not as the 60-40 buying and selling idea. You should be using it as an educational time, same as you would a lesson. If you go for a fit and you're delivering a crazy dynamic loft or a crazy lie, the question should be why. Not how do I fix that, as in with a club. Why am I feeling like I need to do that? What is making me do that? And if I fix that, would it be more successful than if you just butcher this club to encourage me to make that movement more? So what I mean by that, let's pretend you're delivering an iron 6 degrees toe down. So your toe ending it down. Fitter then bends that club 4 degrees to get it closer to X, Y, or Z lie, so 2 degrees within zeros. Let's pretend we want a zero lie. The question I'm asking you is, why have you got such a high handle at impact? Bending that club to encourage a high handle at impact might be the worst thing that we ever do for you. That's why fitting on the 60-40 premise can be so dangerous. Fitting with the idea of understanding why you produce the numbers you do can actually be really, really powerful. There we go, thanks for watching. Just a little heads up, one more head and tail flip. Have you been calling down below? This is the last one. That's a heads. So in this video, that's 4 heads, 1 tails. Does that mean this coin is better for flipping heads than tails? Let me know down there if this makes sense. Let me know if you want me to do other tests, and if you don't agree with this idea or do. I'd love to hear. I'm no statistician, but definitely I think we're all getting sold a little bit, well, we're all getting a bit sold, aren't we?